Hello YouTube, I'm Vince White. I'm an employment attorney and I gotta start an 11-hour trip to Miami in about 1 hour. So we're gonna bang out a couple of videos before we go. Normally my trip to Miami is 3 hours, but I'm not in New York. I'm used to that LaGuardia to Miami quick shot. But instead I'm in the great frozen north, rural New Hampshire, and I must travel first to Logan in Boston and then down to Miami. And there's some waiting involved in there as well. So we have a question here. Oh, I'm an employment attorney. On this channel, we answer publicly posted questions from YouTube users, getting folks the answer they need from an employment attorney. We have a question here from Respectfully Truthful. That is the YouTube username. And Respectfully Truthful says, unfortunately, not all mental health professionals know how to assist with hostile workplace situations. Accurate. Agreed. Maya recently suggested I look for another job. Not always an option. We finally agreed on a treatment plan that involved utilizing all 12 weeks of family medical leave time. I plan on running the figurative clock down until June. I've already been placed on a PLP, which I assume is some version of a PIP, a performance improvement plan. Mute you when I cough. After years of dedicated service, it was not until I retained an attorney that I got FMLA approved. I'm using the FMLA to heal and prepare to semi-retire. The attorney is helping me to prepare an EEOC complaint related to ADA violations. I'm currently working on an exit strategy and will retire this summer. At the most, provided FMLA is approved, I'll work 8 to 10 weeks before summer break. I was trying to stay until I'm eligible for Social Security, but it's not worth my well-being. So that's not really a question, but there's a great point made in there. Not all mental health professionals are great at dealing with difficult situations in the workplace. And listen, I'm not mocking the ones who aren't good at it. It's a very specialized thing, right? Like, at the end of the day, they train their entire lives to try to make your mental health better. And here, that is the goal, but you got a job. And the job is how you keep a roof over your head, it's how you feed your family, it's how you survive. So, yes, is the job potentially at least a partial, or in some cases a complete cause of your mental anguish? Yeah, often. That's often what happens in these cases. Does that mean you can just get up and leave the job? Probably not. For most people, that's not an option. And listen, it's pretty simple. Yes, doctor, my mental health is important to me. You know what else is important to me? That my children don't starve to death. Also, doctor, not for nothing, you know how I pay your bill? With the insurance I get from the employer, because we live in a country where they tie medical insurance to the employer for some inexplicable reason. Some deeply hateful reason, right? So, if I leave this job, I won't make my mortgage, I won't make my rent, I won't be buying groceries, I won't be collecting unemployment, won't be able to afford COBRA, so I won't have insurance in most of the country. So I can't treat with you. I would say my mental health might be worse. So, doctor, as easy as it is to say, well, you got to leave the job, it's not that easy. Easy to say, not easy to do, right? And listen, I get it. Sometimes you're like, listen, if you don't leave this job, like you're being irrevocably harmed. Yeah. Great example is I have a lot of clients who experience suicidal ideation because of the things that happen in their workplace are so horrible, right? And do you want to tell that person you got to leave this job? Of course you do. Of course you do. But that person might say, yeah, I really do, but I also need to not starve to death because there's no social safety net here. And that's a reality, right? So I do say when you're in an employment scuffle, like we tend to deal with on this channel, you need a mental health professional who understands that Like that, it's not that simple. And you're going to find not all of them will. Additionally, a lot of them are going to say, oh, wait, are you in litigation? I don't want to be involved in litigation. I often tell my clients, like, listen, get the mental health professional that's going to help you the most, sincerely. And, like, don't, I have a lot of negative things to say about professional witness mental health professionals, right? And we can touch on that in a moment. But, like, get the one who's going to help you the most. And don't necessarily say that you're in litigation, because they might drop you as a client. Like, there's mental health professionals who are like, ooh, yeah, I don't testify. You're going to have to go find somebody else. I'm not going to treat you. I guess they have that right. But I got to tell you, seems a little bit like you're leaving that person high and dry, doc, or a therapist, or whatever, psychologist, whoever we're dealing with, social worker, clinical social, whatever it is. And is that a criticism? If you're going to do the job, maybe you got to do all of the job. I don't know. I'm not in that industry. I can't say. But I do get a little frustrated when people come back to me like, oh, my therapist dumped me because I'm suing. Part of me does feel like, well, maybe your therapist was a piece of shit, right? Like, that doesn't seem like how that relationship is supposed to work. But what do I know? I don't know that industry, and I'm just talking, right? Oh, yeah, professional witnesses. So, and I've talked about this in the channel before. The last thing I'll say is not all mental health professionals are created equal for workplace scuffles and litigation, because some of them are professional witnesses. And you'll get these clients who run out and go hire a therapist who's not in their insurance plan for, $2,000 an hour. And you say, why are you treating with this person? Oh, they're a really good witness. They have a big professional witness practice. Cool. Yeah, you know what that looks like at trial? Doctor, how many people did you treat this year? 35. Great. Out of those 35 people, how many of those patients of yours did you treat for more than 12 weeks? None. Okay, so all your patients were cured in 12 weeks? No. None of my patients were cured in 12 weeks. Okay, doctor, that's strange that you always end at 12 weeks and nobody's necessarily better off. Of those 35 patients, how many of those people did you diagnose with PTSD? Well, 100% of those people. Oh, okay, doctor. Why do 100% of the people that you diagnose have a diagnosis for PTSD? Oh, well, people come to me specifically to deal with PTSD. So they're self-diagnosing with PTSD, and that's why they come to you, to get the PTSD diagnosis? No. People who have situations that might be traumatic come to me, and, if they have PTSD, I diagnose it. So 100% of the people who thought they might have PTSD and who hired you did have PTSD. So you're saying that 100% of the people who hired you correctly self-diagnosed. No, I'm not saying, well, that's what you're saying. Okay, great. Out of 35 people you diagnosed with PTSD this year, which were all of your clients for the year, how many of those clients had litigation? Oh, well, they didn't all go to litigation. Okay. How many times have you testified this year? 20. Great. How many of those 20 times that you testified were related to your 35 patients? All of them. In all those cases, did you testify to a PTSD diagnosis? Yes. And listen, this is not how this would really be done, and a lot of this, I'm being shitty, and a lot of this is not being correct and, not admissible and everything. But you get the idea. Like, these people are not credible. Expert witnesses for mental health are generally not a boon to a case. They're generally a huge detriment. And the minute I see them on a case, I start talking to my client. Listen, isn't there somebody on your commute who can actually help you? Like, what are we doing here? Why are we getting the least believable version of this expert that you can possibly imagine, when we could get some sincere mental health professional who is centered and driven primarily by the desire to help you to get better, and who we then kind of have to twist her or his arm to testify, because you don't really want somebody who's excited to testify. You want someone who looks uncomfortable, right? We don't need a smooth therapist, right? I got smooth criminal playing in my head right now, which is in many ways what these professional witnesses are. Smooth criminals, right? They come in, they're like, I got my little bow tie, got my little binder, and I'm ready to testify. I'm gonna be smooth. We're gonna get this out on direct real easy. Sure, yeah, you are, and there's gonna be less prep time for your attorney, and it's gonna be easier in some ways. But God help you when you get to that cross-examination, and a good defense counsel says, so basically you're a piece of shit, and I can demonstrate that for the jury. Guess what? That really gets traction. Juries can feel that because it's real. That person is a piece of shit. That person does give a diagnosis for money, right? And then they get on the stand for more money, and they say whatever they need to say. That's not what you need. That's not good. You have been, presumably, if you're watching this channel, you've been sincerely wronged. You don't need to lie. You don't need to scam. You don't need to bring in some piece of shit doctor who's going to say what you need. You have the trauma. You've been through the thing. You've been harmed. Right? Like, this is real. You don't live in a world where you got a con. We're not running a con. We're going and we're telling the truth. We are telling the truth in the most convincing way possible. We are making sure that our narrative controls. But that's just a turf war for the hearts and minds of the jury. It's not a con job, right? When politicians get up, they're both lying. And lying's hard. When you get up, you know what you're doing? You're telling the fucking truth about things that happened to you. Because bad things were done. Presumably. And if you are lying, you're a piece of shit. Fuck you. But 99 times out of 100 in this field, you're telling the truth. Even if you're not entirely accurate, you believe you're telling the truth. You're sincere. I gotta tell you, one of the easiest things to do in the world, and one of the most convincing, is to just tell what happened to you. Truthfully. People have evolved over millennia to have some ability to recognize when you're being sincere, right? When we were all in tribes, and you're like, 3,000 years ago, you're like, Steve killed my brother. It wasn't me, it was Steve. The people in that tribe, their life could depend on whether or not they could figure out if they could believe you or not, right? So over time, human beings who were good at spotting lies tended to survive, and then human beings got better at spotting lies. Obviously, we're not great. We're not amazing at it. We're not perfect. You can just look at the government of any country for that. But we're better than you think. So when you bring in some kind of charlatan to testify about your mental health, which you did not need to do because your mental health has very much been harmed. But you brought in this charlatan who looks like a charlatan, sounds like a charlatan, demonstrably has behaved like a charlatan, and will have to testify to that, like, about that. You're not helping. So, I made this very long. But yes, listen, not all mental health professionals know how to assist with hostile workplace situations, and there's a variety of ways they fall short, and you should spend probably almost as much time looking for the right mental health professional to deal with as you would spend looking at the correct attorney to deal with in this field. All right. Wish me luck on my trip to Miami. I will probably already be in Miami when when you actually see this, but wish me luck retroactively. Thanks, everybody. Like, subscribe, comment down below. Helps the channel to grow.